All right, this is one of my favorite topics, if you will, Nick. It's about influencers, and sometimes they come in a second. Sometimes they come over a lifetime. When I speak, I talk a lot about my grandfather, my grandmother, my mom. They were from Kiev, and they went to Canada. I immigrated to Canada. When I was 5, he used to take me for walks in the park. And long story short, one day I asked him, I said, Zayd, I call him that. How do you know all these people? And he told me that, well, one day, you see that guy over there, he literally pointed, I remember, and he said, one day I smiled at the guy and he looked up and smiled at me and he came over, started talking, and then we started doing stuff and whatever. And then another person saw us in the park and same thing. And I thought as a 5-year-old, life's pretty easy, just smile. And then you kind of get older and you try to make things complicated, and then you realize it's not that complicated. It's
Hmm.
smile, even just a smile can do it. Um,
Yeah.
and so that was a big influence on me. And I know we all have many, but can you share two or three people that have been influential in your life?
Um, yeah. I mean, definitely God. Um, really, you know, Jesus as the master entrepreneur. He had to convince 12 people to follow him. And then he had to challenge them to think beyond themselves. And I would say that you know, that's been a model that I'm trying to follow, as a Catholic. That's really important to me. Um, and I have so much learning to do.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
I think, you know, uh, my parents, my mom and my dad, my adopted parents, um, really modeled a lot. My dad, he he did a lot of quality assurance work, right? Making sure like, is what we're doing the right things? Are these, what are the important questions that we really need to ask? Because not everything matters. Um, and while sometimes not enjoying the being the recipient of all the questions, um,
yeah.
I learned a lot. And that was important. And then, my mom, um, you know, she was a driver. She was a taskmaster. Um, with her, it was about getting things done, at making sure that things are ticked and tied. And she was probably, the biggest influence in my life, because of, what she did to take care of me, my brother. And she was the elementary school principal, one of the first, or I think she was the third elementary principal, female elementary principal in the state of Minnesota at the
Well,
time. And so a groundbreaker, in some ways. And she wasn't going to let things get in her way. And I think she taught me that I don't need to let things get in my way. You need to be resilient. Not everything's going to go the way that you want. She had lupus, and that she could have taken she could have made a different choice every day to not get out of bed. And she fought through that for 40 years and tried to make people's lives better all around her. And so those are probably my top three influences.
it's funny how that works. The one with the least amount of money relatively gives the bigger contribution.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
It's
I think that's
interesting.
so true.
Thanks for sharing all that. It teaches us that we're influencing people all the time. And a lot of times we don't even know it. And it's a matter of, do you want to do it positively or the alternative? And it takes more
Hmm.
muscles to frown than to smile. So,
It does. Yeah, it totally
uh,
does.
thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you asking.